Samson wasn't a biological superhero. He was a Nazirite. His body functioned as a portable tabernacle, a walking sanctuary for God. The author tracks Samson across ancient Canaan, using elevation to map his spiritual state. High ground represents covenant. Low plains are enemy territory. Traveling toward Timnah, the Hebrew text uses the root verb yarad, to go down. In this geography, he isn't just descending a hill, he is crossing a border into a space defined by the chaos of other gods. Once in Timnah, Samson ignores the purpose of his calling. His first recorded words focus entirely on a Philistine woman he has seen there, telling his parents, "She is right in my eyes." This detail mirrors the fall in Genesis. Just as Eve saw the desirable fruit and allowed visual allure to override God's word, Samson allows his own sight to govern his choices. By seeking a union with a Philistine, Samson actively breaks the boundaries intended to keep the nation of Israel entirely distinct. He treats the sacred requirements of his life as obstacles to his own cravings. Samson's physical movement toward the lowlands matches the direction of his loyalty. In this story, a descent in elevation is a descent in faithfulness. The downward trajectory continues as Samson travels to Gaza. He moves past the borderlands and into a stronghold of Philistine power. When the city attempts to trap him, Samson displays massive physical strength. He uproots the city gates, massive timber and iron structures, and carries them away on his shoulders to the top of a hill. This creates a sharp tension in the narrative. Samson can easily rip the defenses out of a fortified city, but he has no defense against his own impulses. He represents the struggle of a man who can defeat an army, but cannot master himself. He is physically free, yet increasingly bound by his own appetites. His life shows that compromise rarely destroys a person in a single moment. Instead, it advances through repeated choices, each one making the next collapse more likely. This slide into compromise reaches its lowest point in the Sorek Valley. This area sits exactly between the territory of Israel and the plains of Philistia, a volatile space where two different ways of living collide. The name Sorek means choice vine, but instead of remaining in the vineyard of God's people, Samson attaches himself to a counterfeit source of life in the valley. Here he meets Delilah. Her name is based on the Hebrew root dalal, which means to weaken or to wither. She is the embodiment of the effect she will have on Samson's life. Samson is driven by emotional attachment, but Delilah is driven by the silver of the Philistines. Their relationship lacks the loyalty that God's covenant requires. Delilah uses that emotional connection as a weapon. She pressures him daily, accusing him of lying and wearing down his resolve until he is physically and mentally exhausted. Eventually, he breaks. He reveals the secret of his hair, handing over the truth of his dedication to God to someone working for his enemies. By giving away the sign of his vow, Samson effectively chooses to dismantle his own identity. He chooses the valley over the sanctuary. Shaving Samson's hair severed the physical link to his covenant. This act dismantled the sign of his dedication, ending the period of his life where the Spirit of God empowered him. The most sobering line is that Samson woke up and thought he could fight as before. He was so detached from God that he did not realize the Lord had left him. Samson's failure illustrates the limits of a life driven by personal desire and physical sight. He possessed every advantage of strength, but he could not sustain his own calling. This failure sets the stage for a different kind of deliverer. Where Samson entered the Sorek Valley and gave up his identity for a desire, Jesus entered the ultimate threshold of the cross to fulfill his mission. Jesus did not allow circumstances or his physical hunger to override the word of his Father. He yielded his life voluntarily, choosing obedience over self-preservation. Samson's choices left him blind and captive, but the faithfulness of Christ broke the cycle of failure, offering a way for his people to be restored to the presence Samson lost.